Appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365 on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel from JAKIBMediaSports.com and also from the 33rd team. It's our buddy Paul Domowitch, who looks real excited to be on with us today. All right, I guess.
How could you not be excited?
Got a half a smile out of him. I guess I'll.
It's early.
Yeah, there he is.
It's early.
Damo's all jacked up. That's what we love to see.
It's tough to get people jacked up this early.
Let me see if I can take him off right off the bat. Paul Domowitch.
Yes.
The Eagles in 1949, Steve Van Buren won the rushing title.
We're going back to 49.
1949, Steve Van Buren won the rushing title. How many other Philadelphia Eagles have won it since? And I'll do the math for you. That's 73 years. How many times in the last 73 years has a Philadelphia Eagle won the rushing title?
I'm going to take a wild guess and say 0.
Well, they snuck one in there.
Snuck one. Wilbert?
Not Wilbert.
Did Shady win one?
Murray?
A decade ago, Shady McCoy led the National Football League in rushing.
Yeah.
One in 73 years. They've won it once in 73 years. How about DeAndre Swift taking down the rushing title this year?
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
You're not buying it?
That's not.
Damn it. Damn it.
I think they're gonna limit his carries between now and the playoffs as much as possible. They're not going to give him any 20 carry games.
Well, Jody and I were talking before you came on about the Eagles running game, the traditional running game.
Right.
And you on your stat package, your bye-week stat package this week at JAKIB Sports brought up the RPO game, which hasn't been nearly as effective. And we kind of saw that early in the season, Damo, when we're all once wondering what's going on with Jalen Hurts. He wasn't as effective running the football. But I think you see the impact of his presence on the running game when the threat is there. The threat hasn't been there since he banged up his knee against the Rams. Teams have seemed to have figured that out. The Eagles have had trouble running the football. Do you see it that way, or do you see it differently?
A little bit. I mean, clearly, his rushing yards number are down. Ironically, he's ahead of last year's pace on rushing first downs. A lot of the reason being the success of the push, but he's got more rushing first downs than anybody in the league, any running back, any quarterback, anybody. So, I think that's part of it. I think another part is just, I think the change in offensive coordinators has changed their philosophy a little bit. They don't seem to be as committed to the run. They were in some games early on, but, we saw in the Jets game, they saw a secondary that was, most of their guys were hurt. Sauce Gardner was out, blah, blah, blah. They just decided we're not even going to bother running. We're going to throw, and they ends up biting them in the teeth. I was talking to our friend Brian Baldinger, who, watches more film than any man alive. And he said, he hadn't even bothered this year to do any breakdowns on Jordan Mailata because they're not really taking advantage of that left side of the line this year. I mean, Mailata and Dickerson last year were, they're just so massive. I mean, they were running behind them, running a lot of zone plays in that direction. This year, there's not as much of that. And, he doesn't know why, other than the fact that they just would rather throw right now.
I was going to say, why wouldn't you? Is that an indictment of Brian Johnson that he's not directing the runs that way, calling the plays that way? We all, three of us, as you were saying it, John and I are nodding our heads, how good they were on the left side. Why would they get away from that?
Well, I think part of it is, when you look at their overall numbers, Jody, they're what, third in the league in scoring. Their numbers haven't changed. They just changed.
It's crazy how similar they are. It's crazy, almost.
They're 1/10 of a point. They're averaging 1/10 of a point less this year in scoring than they did last year. So, different strokes for different folks, I guess. And Brian right now would rather throw the ball. They ran the ball 33 times the other day, but clearly they're
not effectively in the fourth quarter either.
Exactly. So I mean, right now they're having so much success passing. I just don't think they feel they need to make a heavy commitment to the run.
All right, the MVP race is starting to crystallize a little bit, and Jalen Hurts is in the conversation again. I think it's always in a little bit more of an unconventional fashion when you talk about Jalen compared to some of the other candidates, most notably Patrick Mahomes. But I mean, it's pretty impressive, the evolution of this player. We saw the big jump last year, but we're still seeing jumps this year. And since he injured his knee, Damo, he's been just tremendous from the pocket. Who deserves credit for this? Is it Nick Sirianni? Is it Adam Daydew? Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it a combination? We don't see this that often when you see this kind of evolution as a pocket passer.
I think it's probably all of the above, but obviously mostly Jalen. I mean, this guy, you tell him he's not very good at something, he just makes a commitment to change. I mean, everything that people have said he couldn't do coming into this league, couldn't throw the deep ball, wasn't very accurate. I mean, you name it, he's improved in that area. This year, as I mentioned in my column, his third down and red zone improvement has been dramatic. Two areas that even last year when he was the Super Bowl MVP runner-up, he wasn't all that good in those two areas. So, I mean, he just, he goes on a mission when he feels there's something he needs to improve at, or when he's slighted by people who say he's not very good at something.
He has been stone cold phenomenal and lived up to the contract. I don't know if we've asked you this over the last couple of weeks, and my apologies for not remembering. Jalen Hurts, other than tush pushing, is running the football less than he did last year. Certainly the last few weeks, it probably had something to do with the bone bruise on his knee. But even before that, the first couple of weeks of the season, he wasn't running with the same reckless abandon that he did last year. And a couple of times when he decided to slide, I go, that's not Jalen from last year. Jalen tried to beat a tackle on that last year. Do you think that was, and again, it's one of those, the answer is probably a combination of all, but do you think it was more the Eagles directing Jalen to say, take less chances when you run, or do you think Jalen came to that conclusion himself?
Again, like you said, Jody, probably a combination. I mean, he doesn't need to be reminded. All he has to do is watch Josh Allen or somebody like that and wonder, why they would play that way and put their team's future at risk by risking their own injury. He knows they need him healthy at the end of the season. He's gone through 2 straight years here where he's been hurt at the end of the season. He's played, but I mean, he had to take time off to get as healthy as he could be, and wasn't anywhere near 100% in the playoffs either of the last 2 years. So I mean, I think that's you get the longer you're in this league, the smarter you get at all things. And he's always been a fairly smart runner as far as knowing when to get out of bounds, knowing when to slide. So I think he's just gotten better at it. But the injuries. I mean, they're going to need him to run more than this, Jody, when they get into the playoffs. I don't think we'll see him run a whole lot in these 5 games against these, this 5-game stretch they got coming up, because I don't think the knee's going to be still anywhere close to 100%. But, it's just a skill that you don't want to take away from him if he's healthy. But he's become such a good pocket passer. You can say, okay, well, you're hurt. You can't run real well right now. Doesn't matter. Just move around the pocket, extend a few plays, and you're still going to complete 75% of your throws. Well, that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah. Now that's the good. Now, unfortunately, I got to talk about the bad with you, Damo, and that's the pass defense problems, as you kind of laid out. Now, the most concerning number for me continues to be the 15-yard plays they give up or the explosive plays they give up, because that's what this defense is designed to prevent. I mean, that's what they're trying to do, prevent explosive plays. And league high, NFL high, 32nd, 65 pass plays of 15 yards or more. And last year they were phenomenal at limiting those plays. And I think the number was 76, correct me if I'm wrong, for the entire season.
Yeah.
Is it just personnel, all the issues, all the churn, or is Sean Desai getting a pass here?
Well, I mean, I think it's personnel, but the personnel has forced Sean Desai to play a lot softer than he really would like. I mean, off coverage on the outside, dropping the linebackers back. I mean, against the Cowboys, I couldn't even see the safeties in the screen. I mean, they were out by I-95 somewhere. Yeah. I mean, he's just decided this is the way we have to play. Let him get down into the red zone and hope we get better at that, and keep him out of the end zone, force him to field goals, and hope our. I mean, you're seeing the offense, they've gotten dramatically better in the red zone. So they're scoring more touchdowns and fewer field goals. I mean, that's going to be the key to victory for them going forward, outscoring teams. Because I guess when Bradley Roby eventually gets back, they'll be better at slot corner. As much as I like Sidney Brown, there's not going to be a dramatic improvement there this year from him. Or Eli Ricks. I don't know. I don't even know if Eli Ricks long-term can play in the slot in this league. But yeah, I mean, so I think I think Desai is being forced to play the way he is. And teams are, their pass rush has been good, but teams are getting the ball out quickly because, when you've got that middle of the field where you can throw these quick passes, it's kind of like, die slow or die fast, and he doesn't want to die fast, so he's making teams try to work it down the field.
Yeah, but they're doing a pretty good job if they're last in the league at 15-yard plus completions. If you got the right read on this, Dom, and I think you do, Desai can just kind of shrug when you throw that number at him. Go, and when did we lose? Oh, once. That's right. So is it going to take a team coming from behind and at the end of 60 minutes having more points from the Eagles for Desai to go, yeah, I guess we need to try and put a little bit more pressure on their wide receivers and not give so much cushion and not give up the middle of the field? Because if you want to question him, you can always say, and what is our record? Is it going to take a loss somewhere along the line here for the Eagles to maybe adjust a little bit and try and get a little bit more aggressive in the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, the one criticism I have of Sean, and he's not a big blitzer. I mean, he's from the Fangio camp. They just
more so than Gannon.
Yeah, but like last week, teams are getting the ball out, so no matter how good those front four are, it presents a dilemma for you. Last week they hadn't been very good on blitzing this season. When they've blitzed teams, their passer rating's been really good, even better than when they rushed four. But last week against Prescott, they blitzed early and they had a lot of success. He was 1 for 7, I think. They sacked him once, and then they stopped. They blitzed like 3 times the rest of the game, and as we saw at the end, I mean, you're hanging on for dear life with this team. I mean, if not for the left knee and the right foot, they lose this game by 5 points instead of winning, or lose it by 4 instead of winning by 5.
Or if Dak Prescott has any situational awareness, but I digress.
Yeah.
But,
that's what
I will say when it comes to, and Jody's right, by the way, obviously, and my partner gets more worked up about power rankings than I do, but there's a number out there that say the Eagles are 6 or 7, and they have the best record in the NFL. Kind of weird, but who cares ultimately?
Yeah.
But are they on to something? Because they are winning games, but if you keep giving up explosive pass plays, if you keep being 25th in third down defense, 25th, whatever they are in red zone defense. Ultimately, that knee's going to be in the end zone. Ultimately, we talk about with quarterbacks, Brock Purdy went through this incredible stretch, winning games. And then the advanced analytics people will tell you, yeah, but these turnover worthy throws. And all of a sudden, people start picking them off and it goes in the other direction. Are we going to see that regression to the mean with the Eagles defense? And the knee goes in the end zone. All of a sudden, win turns to loss, and bang, we're saying, what the hell's going on with this secondary?
Yeah. I mean, rankings wise, like right now, I mean, every team's imperfect. I mean,
yeah.
Who do you look at and say, they got a trip to the
everybody.
I mean, Kansas City, if not for Steve Spagnuolo's defense, I mean, they'd be probably 500 right now. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has nobody to throw to but Travis Kelce. Their offense is doing nothing. Even Miami, I mean, held scoreless by the defense that we've just been trashing in the second half when they played each other a couple of weeks back.
And by the way, they only gave up 6 points to Dallas, as Nick will constantly bring up. They only gave up 6 points.
Yeah.
In
Dallas,
the second half.
Down, San Francisco can't win now. Buffalo.
Now, Baltimore, I think, has looked like the best team, but
they do.
Lost.
But the only thing is with Baltimore is you look at their history. I mean, when they get to the playoffs, they're probably going to lose, or at least that's the popular thinking. I mean, I love what Todd Monken is doing there, and I think it's going to be different this year. I mean, but if I had to pick a team in the AFC that's going to the Super Bowl right now, it might be Jacksonville. I mean, we might be seeing Doug Peterson back in the
I'd like that. Doug Peterson against Nick Sirianni, that would be fun. That would be.
But getting back to the Eagles, you're right. I mean, things that are going wrong now could go right. But I mean, they need that offense to. I mean, they're in a situation now where, you wait for the next shoe to drop. They lost Goedert last week. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. That's going to hurt them. That's going to affect that offense. But the killer would be if they lost AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. You take one of them away, and I think it just completely affects the offense. So. That's not anything new in this league. It's always about injuries.
Right. But you can make the same, and I'll use Kansas City as an example because they play Kansas City this week. If they lose Travis Kelce, they're screwed too. You take the top receiver from any one team and you say, if you lose them, oh my God, what a drop off. Yeah, but that'd be the same for everybody. So you can't legislate injuries. It's kind of luck of the draw there. But since I went to Kelce, I got to go to tight end. Dallas Goedert going to be gone at least 4 weeks, maybe more than that. Don't know. How are they going to replace him? Jack Stoll is a good blocker. He's not really a receiver. Albert O has played less than 10 snaps since they got him at the beginning of the season. They just haven't had the need and or the desire to put him in there and get him some time and let him see what he can or can't do. People have been speculating, play Julio Jones at tight end. And I know they mean just not play 2 tight end, play 4 wide receiver sets, but Julio Jones is a wide receiver, he's not a tight end. Even though he's tall, he's not a tight end. You're going to be asking him to chip guys on the way in before he gets out into his pattern. I can guarantee you, Julio hadn't done a whole hell of a lot of that in his career. No, Julio, we need you to chip before you get out into the pattern.
He's not
hasn't freaking happened.
No.
So
I've heard that from some fans, so I have to say that Julio Jones is not playing tight end. Stop it. Stop.
Understood. Who is going to replace Dallas Goedert tight end? Or are they just going to scrap the tight end position and go, we'll go with 5 wide receivers? That's because, let me not forget, Quez is on the return.
I think we're going to see more throws to Brown and Smith, and I think we're going to see more. We're going to see Gainwell and Swift catch about a total of 10, 12 balls a game.
Really?
By the way,
hold on. Let me go there because somebody asked me about that the other day, and we all love Jalen Hurts and what he's doing and the season he's having and living up to his contract and. Right now, number 2 in the betting markets to Patrick Mahomes in the MVP. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Oh, yeah, that's exactly the way they finished last year. Is that a strength of Jalen Hurts? the quote unquote screen game. Because we've been watching screen games here. You, me, John, been in Philadelphia a long time. We've seen some quarterbacks who could really do it, use it as a weapon. Andy Reid would consider a screen pass a running play, and we'd all argue about that. I'm not sure that's the strength of Jalen Hurts, throwing to backs out of the backfield. If they're going to increase that without Dallas Goedert in the lineup, are they going to be successful at it?
I mean, I don't think we're going to see a lot. I mean, the screen game hasn't been very effective for them this year. A couple times when they've used Goedert, but who's probably their best screen weapon, and he's obviously hurt. No, I don't necessarily. I think we're going to see them. I mean, they're going to. They typically line up Swift and Gainwell on the outside in empty sets. I think that's how we'll see them used. In the middle of the field.
You're going to see bubble screens.
Yeah, bubble screens. I don't think we're talking necessarily about like these, 2-cent flares that a lot of teams use. I mean, that's not how they use those two guys much. But the screens, middle of the field is a check down. I think Jalen's gotten more comfortable with doing that. I don't think, we've talked about this in the past. It wasn't something he seemed to like to do in the past. It wasn't.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but I think he's realized the importance of it because it opens up other things if you do that enough. Plus, these guys have yards after the catch capability. I mean, Gainwell's gotten several key first downs when he's on pass completions. DeAndre Swift can run without the ball. And we haven't even seen – I think they threw to Swift deep on a deep ball once last week, but we haven't seen a lot of that. And maybe we will going forward. I don't know. Wheel routes, things like that.
Wheel routes. Yeah, they should get the wheel route involved.
Yeah.
I happened to look at it yesterday because I was writing about it, Domo. The Eagles won 5-0 without Dallas Goedert last season. I think everybody remembers that part of it and say, what's the big deal? They'll do it again. Now, they played at Indianapolis, and by the way, they were horrible in that game for the vast majority. Jalen Hurts kind of put them on their back in the fourth quarter. Then they got going. They played Green Bay. They scored 40. Tennessee scored 35. Tennessee was crippled in that game. At the Giants, they dominated the Giants, destroyed them, beat Chicago, which was the game Jalen Hurts got injured in. So those were the games they won without Dallas Goedert. This year, it's much tougher, number one, the schedule. We all know the upcoming schedule. But they went about it in a different way. Jack Stoll played a ton. 69, I think it was 69% of the snaps was his low mark during that 5 streak. Calcaterra played a little bit more. But obviously, Stoll caught 7 passes, 7 targets, 7 passes. Calcaterra caught 4. So they weren't throwing the ball to the tight ends. They were throwing it to Devontae ticked up a little bit. And Jody's favorite player, Quez Watkins, was the main recipient. He went from like under 2 targets a game to over 5 targets a game. That's Julio right now. That's number 3. So to me, it's going to be more Julio Jones or more Olamide Zaccheaus, or to Jody's behest, if Quez Watkins comes back. Whoever that third receiver is, that's the guy. That's the guy who's got to get more involved. If they're going to copy last year's successful templates.
The place that they might miss Goedert, and it's not that he had that many catches down there, but we talked about Jalen's improvement and the Eagles' improvement in the red zone over the last 4 games. I mean, they've climbed up, I think, to 13th in red zone offense, which is a lot better than where they were like 5-6 weeks ago. Goedert only, I think, has I think he's got 1 red zone touchdown catch, which isn't a lot, but he's a presence down there that they've got to make up for. So maybe it's Calcaterra. I don't know. Maybe
Alberto.
Maybe AJ picks up the slack. I mean, he's been the main red zone weapon right now for Jalen. But I mean, that's where they can't afford to let up, because that's where their season rests, in the red zone. They need 7. We don't need to see Jake Elliott a lot the rest of the season. If we do, unless this defense gets a lot better, it's going to be bad news.
All right, Damo. We were told by Darius Slay that he decided at the end of the game, I'm going to cover CD Lamb. He just made that decision on his own, apparently, because there was a little bit of a surprise to the coaching staff. And that wasn't until late in the game. When is he going to decide he better cover Travis Kelce this week? Because somebody's got to be able to cover that Chiefs tight end, and the guys in the slot / linebacker position / safety position haven't done a real great job at coverage of a guy in the middle of the field of late. How are they going to deal with Kelce?
Good question. I'm eager to find out because you're right. They haven't. I mean, Jake. If you can't cover Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker, how are you going to cover Travis?
Tackle Luke a yard short, though.
It was all over
job
Luke
out of you, Lance.
I think what you do is you hope that he misses his flight back from Argentina.
That's not bad. I mean, that's not a bad.
They need to. I mean, that's a problem. They've already given up 5 touchdown passes, 2 in the last 2 weeks to tight ends. They gave up 3 all last season. Teams see this. I mean, they're watching the film and Travis Kelce's probably telling his brother, boy, am I going to have a great day against you guys. So they got to find somebody that's going to cover him. I don't think it's Slay. I don't think he's big enough or strong enough to handle Travis Kelce, but I don't, you got to be creative. I mean, we're going to see this is one of the challenges.
Go to the Hillary Clinton defense.
Bracket
throw
him,
everything.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to confuse Patrick Mahomes, but you might be able to slow him down. That rush, if you can just get him to hold on to the ball, so we'll see. They've got to do something. Right. They can't let Travis Kelce run wild.
In that vein, at PDamo, make sure you follow Paul on X. Read him. JAKIB Sports, his stat package is up. 33rd team does a tremendous job there. Nick Morrow, starting Mike linebacker. I think he's played better than Nakobe Dean. I think short term, the Eagles defense gets a little bit better. Why is everybody expecting the shoe to drop with Nicholas Morrow? I mean, if it does, all right, but he deserves to be on the field. I'm worried about the Goedert injury. I'm not that worried about the Dean injury, other than depth-wise. You don't want to go down if somebody else gets hurt, but as Jody pointed out, you can't legislate injuries. The best linebacker tandem they have right now is Nick Morrow and Zach Cunningham. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree. I haven't been real impressed by Dean lately. I think part of it's the way they're using him. I mean, they've moved their linebackers back so far that it takes away what he does best. They blitzed him once last week and he was effective with it. But, that's one of the things he does really well. But he's on a defense now that doesn't blitz. Can't play much downhill because that's not what they're trying to do right now. So, yeah, I mean, I think, Morrow is I don't think there's no slippage there.
And the fact that Dean hurt his other foot, that's a scary thing. I didn't even know that till this morning when I read it. I thought for sure it was the same foot that he hurt early in the year. No, the right foot early in the year, left foot this time. Guy just got bad feet, and that's a bad thing for a linebacker in the National Football League. All right, Damo, with the Chiefs coming up next week, we know what the gauntlet is that the Eagles have to go through before they get to the 3 layups at the end of the year. What do they got to do here in the next 5? The goal is to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, end up with the best record in the NFC. That's the overarching goal. You got to know what the other teams are going to do. Lions are the one that are closest as of right now. For the Eagles to retain the position they have as the road to the Super Bowl runs through, what do they have to do in the next 5 games?
3-2 would be nice. I'm not even sure that's going to be good enough, though. I mean, Detroit. I mean, don't fall asleep on them. They've got a soft schedule the rest of the way. They're 6-2, I think. 6-2 or 7.
Very soft schedule. Yeah,
I mean, they could end up running the table and being 15-2. But still, I mean, the best. If you ask me a good scenario for this team right now in the next 5 weeks. I would say winning 3 out of 5 would be great.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. And by the way, Eagles fans, keep an eye because this is a game this week that Detroit could lose. They're at the LA Chargers. And the Chargers are up and down. We all know they're Heckle and Jekyll, but when they play well, they're capable of beating them. If they beat the Chargers, then you got to wait. I think they play Dallas down the road. They don't have a lot of losable games. You got to hope Josh Dobbs is the real thing and he can get one of two, maybe. They have a very easy schedule. That's something to keep an eye on. The Detroit Lions.
That's why I think you need to get 4-1. I know 3-2 is we're greedy here. What can we say? When you go to the Super Bowl the year before, you're greedy coming back next year. If they go 4-1, they're in very good shape. 3-2, they could be on the wrong end of a tiebreaker at the end of the year.
I will say one thing real quick, guys. I mean, these 5 games don't look as ominous as they did 2 months ago.
No, they don't. Buffalo doesn't look as good. The Chiefs, as you mentioned, have had some struggles offensively.
San Francisco.
San Francisco's struggling. Dallas, they've proven they could beat Dallas. Seattle's a good team, but that's a really difficult place to play, though. Seattle.
It is, especially
and Kansas City's tough too. I know they lost the home opener to the Lions, but that's still tough.
No, that's a tough place to play. Yeah, Arrowhead's very loud for an outdoor stadium.
So they got their work cut out for them. Domowitch, you got your work cut out for you this week. You got to be in front of that TV watching as many games as possible on Sunday. You up for the challenge?
I certainly hope so.
I'm surprised that Carolina-Chicago game didn't finally turn you off football for all these years.
I watched 2 minutes of that game and quickly went to Netflix.
You guys didn't suffer through Jets Giants like I did. Last night's game was a walk in the park compared to watching the Jets and the Giants. There's been some bad football played in there, at least on the offensive side. Some bad football played. Some quarterbacks, some guys in the league that are playing right now that should not be playing quarterback in the National Football League.
Yeah. And unfortunately, one of them might be the number 1 overall pick, unfortunately, for Carolina, which is not a good
believe
sign.
I heard that there's been 10 rookies that have started a quarterback already.
Yes.
That's an NFL record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck with it. And I think they had one because DeVito hasn't started yet, and he's got to start this week. He's only come in relief. And oh man, it's tough to watch when he does come in relief. He gets to actually start this week, so add another one this week. That's injuries are a big part of the game. There's nothing anybody can do to control it, even though the Eagles think they can by practicing less hard than other teams around the league. But I get myself in trouble. We'll drop that right here, right now. Paul Domowitch, it is always a pleasure when you give us your insights to the Birds 365 show. Thank you very much for doing it. We'll punch up next week. Have a great weekend, Domo.
You too, guys. Take care.
Thanks.
Make sure you read his stat pack on JAKIBSports.com. Domo always gives a different type of look at where the Eagles are at, and he shared it with us today, and you get the rest of it on his stat pack on JAKIBSports.com. All right, Johnny Mac, coming back. We still got an hour to go.
Before we hit the break, I do want to bring up Jody, our buddy D Gunn. For those who are fans of JAKIB Sports and watch the channel all day, and you should, Sports Take, you probably noticed that D Gunn is off. Unfortunately, his wife suffered a stroke, so there's some concerns moving forward with care and things of that nature. So those of you who know D Gunn, tremendous reporter, better person, and he's going through some difficult times right now. So some of his friends, and I saw Amy Fadul from NBC Sports Philadelphia tweeted it out. There's a GoFundMe for Derek and his wife set up. So you can just go to GoFundMe.com, search Derek Gunn. You'll get all the information. And I know, a lot of people can't give, but if you're in a position where you can give, it would be a tremendous thing to do. And again, for those of you who have met Derek, does a great job when it comes to football reporting, but everybody loves D Gunn because he's a better person than he is a reporter, and he's a pretty good reporter.
3 things I love to talk about with D Gunn: football, barbecuing, family. Because you see his eyes light up. We have him on every once in a while as a guest here, but you watch the show every single day and see D Gunn and know that the things that excite him in life are football, barbecuing, family. And he talks about his grandkids and his children all the time. So when you take a hit at home with the family, it just rocks your entire world. So as John said, check out GoFundMe.com and find out the information about how you could lend a helping hand to a good buddy of ours and yours if you're a fan here at the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, Derek Gunn. All right, Johnny Mac, Jordy Mac coming back. Still got an hour to play here on Birds 365.